Good morning. Welcome to the Coach's Cup. Coach Judith Fender here to welcome our very special guest. I want to delay on giving her name out. She is someone who has been in the industry of coaching since 2017. She has helped coach thousands of women to their weight loss goals and personal goals. She is someone on a more personal level, someone I have been able to admire from afar. And now I'm so fortunate to call her a coworker. That doesn't even sound right because I say friend, colleague. That's the word I'm looking for.
Well, and a friend too, for sure.
And a friend too. That's right. And that is so true. So I am so pleased to introduce you guys Coach Betsy Kimbrell. Betsy has been with the No BS weight loss program since 2017. And we are today, we're going to be talking about decisions. So Betsy, I am just going to roll it right over to you.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Judith. I have to show you all, I am repping my Razorbacks this morning because we beat LSU last night, y'all. We got the boot back. So we hadn't won since 2006, I think. No, 2000. We haven't won in 6 years. We haven't beat LSU in 6 years. So I am just like on cloud nine this morning. It's a big deal.
Did you know that Kentucky and Tennessee has a beer barrel that they trade back and forth?
See, I'm a non-fan, so y'all have to even, I'm like, what?
Well, we're both SEC girls. You're an ACC country.
Okay.
So, and we still love you, but it's just not the same thing.
We do have the Ram, right?
Bless your heart. Bless your heart.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, the boot. I have to educate the peoples here, but the boot is, Arkansas and Louisiana kind of makes a big boot shape. And so it is apparently a 24 karat gold trophy.
Oh, wow.
And we pass it back and forth, but LSU has kept it for quite a while now. So it's a pretty big deal that we've got it back for a little while. So we're going with it. So anyway,
you had me at 24 karat gold. Okay.
Right? Yeah. I don't think our beer barrel is that fancy. I don't know, but I'm just guessing.
Yeah. So, well, thank y'all so much for having me on the podcast. This is something that I just love to do. And I made it happen. I contacted Judith and I just really wanted to talk about decision-making today, because I just think it's so important. Mm-hmm. And I've just been thinking about it all morning, and it's like, really, decisions make our life, right? Decisions create our life. And I mean, if we think about our lives, it's just been a series of decisions. Mm-hmm. And so I just think it's a great topic to talk about on the podcast.
Even when people don't make decisions,
they make a decision.
That's right. They think that their life is just happening to them. And I think that's one of the fun things with coaching is when they see, oh, I've been making decisions all along.
Right. And they take like responsibility, right?
Yeah.
They take ownership. And if we can keep them out of the shame or the, and the judgment of that, and just into this awareness of, oh, I have been making a decision every day, or I made a decision a long time ago, and it just gives them their power back, right? It just reminds them that they did make a decision, maybe a decision to not make a decision, but it was still a decision. And it just reminds them that, that they do have the power to do something different and to make whatever decision they want.
Yes.
So, yeah. So today I just kind of made a few notes and talked about kind of some ahas about decision making that I discovered through getting certified with the life coach school and just coaching my clients. And I mean, I think you're right, Judith. I probably have coached thousands of people at this point, maybe not one-on-one, but we've got a big membership in No BS. So
that's exactly what I was thinking about when I was writing it. I was like, you know what? It is safe to say thousands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always say that I get to live this privilege every day. I was talking to Judith about that earlier, and it's such a privilege and an honor. And oh my gosh, I just love it. And I love my clients so much. And I know y'all do too. So just so
empowering women is, empowering people in general, but I would say we affect more women's lives than men, but that is always such a privilege.
But there's that trickle down effect, right? Yes. When we're helping the women directly, it helps their husbands, help their kids, help their, their families. So it's just it's almost just too much to think about sometimes because
Yeah.
it's so amazing. So
And it's those ahas, like you were saying, it's those ahas we have with our clients. And so I love that you, with your decision making, is the ahas.
Yeah. So I just, again, I kind of got some of these ahas, and then as I worked with my clients, but the first one I've got, and we kind of talked about this already, is that there are no wrong decisions, right? I mean, it's just, that's what keeps so many of us stuck in making a decision. Oh, I forgot. I was going to do this at the very beginning. I want all of us and all of the everybody listening to really think about, is there a decision that needs to be made right now for you in your life? Because I think that will be great to kind of set up the discussion in terms of just thinking about, I have one, and I'd love for y'all to share if you can think of one, but that is just an amazing decision right there, or amazing kind of journal prompt right there. Is just, are there some decisions I need to make? I do that in my journaling sometimes. I give that as homework to my clients sometimes. It's just because a lot of times it's just spinning around. So did y'all come up with anything?
Off the top of my head, no. I'm like, I'm sure, but I might be one of those stuck ones. Let me journal on that.
But seriously, this episode will drop about the 1st of December. So, I think last week's episode that we did was the one talking about trying to get people to make their resolutions now, make their choices now. And so I think this is a great time because people are thinking about big decisions, how they want to live the next year, how they want to live through the holidays in December. So
and that's interesting that you kind of talk about like big decisions, right? Because that's kind of a thought in itself, right? That's in terms of what if all decisions, because my example, y'all, is not one of these quote unquote big decisions. This is something that I just go around and around about so often, is when I order something, usually clothes, when I order something and then it comes in, I try it on and I'm just not sure if I want to keep it or not. And y'all, the time that I spend, I mean, like I go into my bedroom, like, oh, I need to decide about that. Now I probably need to try it all on again and kind of try it on with this shirt and see if it really works and all this kind of stuff. Well, then I, exit the bedroom and then I, don't think about it for a little while. And then I come back, a couple of days later or whatever it is. And the time, the mental energy I'm spending on just a quote unquote small decision like that, not to mention the bigger decisions that we make. And so it's just this whole thing of, when we think that there is a right decision, when we have that thought error, the amount of time that we waste, that we spend just going around and around because we're looking for this right decision, where, and then, I mean, what we're really doing though, is making a decision to not make a decision, making a decision to waste time.
Yeah.
And so it's just like the whole thing is, and this is what I work with my clients on and myself, is like, you can have your own back no matter what. Right. And Jody Moore taught me, I listened to a podcast of hers recently about abundant decision making. It's like, what if either way, or any choice could be amazing? Right. We don't usually ask ourselves that when we, because like with my clothes, for example, what if either choice could be amazing? What if I keep it and it's amazing? But what if I return it and I find something else that I love, that I love even more? But we don't offer ourselves that option a lot of times, or that way to think about it.
It's such a great question. I mean, my mind literally just kind of floated when you said that question, like, what if either way was amazing, and holding that space for the consideration that there is no wrong decision. Thank you, Betsy.
Yeah.
It's really not
true.
Freeing. I don't know what is.
Yeah, because a lot of times people spin in regret. They think back, oh, I wish I should have done, all of those things, and the regrets that they have. And what if it was absolutely the right decision? What if you could just let go of all of that and say, I made the right decision? where I am right now is where I'm supposed to be. And I wouldn't be there if I hadn't, done that, whatever that thing is.
And I know that's so much of what we work with our clients on, right? About just making that peace with the past and all of the decisions that we made, and that it can be as simple as rewriting your past in terms of, I did the best I could in the moment. And it brought me to where I am today.
Yeah.
Some of the most simple thoughts are the most freeing and the most life-changing. So right there with you. So there are no wrong decisions. So number 2, aha, this is one I love, is when we make decisions, when we actually open ourselves up to just doing something different and making some decisions, we get this amazing opportunity to remind ourselves of why we made them. And that's such an amazing tool with decision making, is this why piece, in terms of, oh, okay, like, I'm going to make this decision, and why. We don't always have to have a why, but when we make a decision, our pesky brain, right, this brain that we love so much and that serves us in so many ways, is going to remind us every once in a while, are you sure you made the right decision? Betsy, are you sure? Like, what about this? I mean, we had this. Are you sure you wanted to return those pants? Are you sure? All this kind of stuff. And that gives us this opportunity to say, yes, I actually did want to return those pants because they just weren't, y'all, I've just made the decision. I'm returning the pants. Because they weren't, they weren't exactly what I wanted. Right. And so when, again, just, be all in for your brain wanting to kind of reconsider or just check in and say, is this the right decision? And it's like, I'm so glad you asked. Yes, it is, because the pants around the bottom were a little, weren't as skinny as I wanted. And I mean, and that's the truth. So it's just like, okay, great reminder. Now I can move on. And I just get that reminder of, I do love my decision. So that's just another benefit.
So it's not that you spend time spinning in that and going through all of the back and forth again. It's just, this is the why, and move on.
Yes. And I talk about, like, a good example of a decision is, I decided to do this, and then add because after that, after every single decision that you make, so that you can kind of put your brain to work on coming up with your whys, right? And so that when your brain wants to reconsider, you can remind yourself of your whys. So
I think
any decision can have because, at the end.
I love this so much, because as someone with an anxious brain, I get caught up in the decision-making process, and it becomes, I get overloaded with the decisions, and I will keep them with me and make no decisions. I might be the kind of the classic overload. But I love that, attaching the why to that, Betsy. I think that's super clarifying for an anxious brain.
I actually had kind of a visualization as you were talking, Judith, where it's like, those of us who are indecisive, it's like we think that it's these unmade decisions are somehow like this kind of warm blanket that we hold on to, like, well, I'm just kind of waiting, to make the right decision. But then I think about like a squirmy baby, that you're holding, right? It's like all decisions, okay, this just popped in my head, but it's like all decisions are wanting to be made, right? All decisions are squirming around to be decided on. And so if you can kind of think about it like a squirmy baby who wants to, get down and play on the floor or whatever, it's like, oh, okay, I think this is kind of an urge coming up to make a decision. And I just love my reasons.
And that even falls with the anxious brain too. Like, it will want to go down and pursue more information. Like, I want to analyze and process, like, I need more information to make this decision, and I could go forever. So that even controlling that urge to want to overindulge in information, when in fact, I probably have made my decision in the moment, but I will tell myself, oh, I need to research more.
Yeah. Well, that's something that Brooke Castillo taught me in her one of her amazing podcasts called Being Decisive. I actually re-listened to it this morning. It's probably one of my best ofs for sure with the Life Coach School podcast, because she taught me that a decision is a thought that we decide to think, and we make it in a moment, whether it is to buy a house or to change our career or whether to return these pants. It is always a decision that we make in the moment. We don't take time to make decisions, right? We take time to think a lot and circle around a lot and all of that. But whenever we make a decision, it is a moment. It just takes a moment.
Yeah.
And that was just a big game changer for me when I learned that.
That kind of takes us, Judith was Googling this morning the definition of decision.
So literally, the Latin meaning is to cut off,
Mm-hmm.
I have since closed the Google on that, Sonya.
Well, but that's all. I mean, that's all you need to know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, stop circling, stop spinning, stop overthinking, and just make that decision. Cut it off.
And we also talked about like kind of this ball and chain, right? I work a lot with my clients on kind of that visualization of, you're carrying around these, this ball and chain of whatever it is. And a lot of times it's unmade decisions. And like cutting off that, break the shackles, cutting off the chain can be just this amazing gift to you, right? To yourself, and to be free of something. So
like that elimination of decision fatigue is what I hear.
Right.
Like in another language, like carry that shackle, that ball and chain is decision fatigue, which is just, the need to analyze and paralyze yourself with the mental process. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's so much of what we teach in No BS about making decisions ahead of time, right? With our food and with, how we want to think about ourselves every day. And so we've been able to teach so many women about the power of, reducing that decision fatigue and just giving themselves the gift of certainty. And actually that leads me to the third aha is decision making is the antidote to uncertainty, to indecision, to confusion, to decision fatigue, right? Our brain craves certainty. We know that, right? Yep. As just, scientifically. And so this is how we can give our brain more certainty. But we know that if this is new to us, that we're going to still have some doubt, right? We're going to it's going to feel hard at first, but it really helps us build trust in ourselves. And this whole why, when we really have this really clear why that we love, we can just really develop this relationship with ourselves of like, okay, I can trust any decision I make. I can have my back no matter what happens. And I can just believe, work on believing that it was the best decision for me in the moment. And I will just always be able to be okay and have my own back. So.
And we talk a lot, and I was listening to a coaching call that you did, I think a couple of Sundays ago. I was listening to that last night as I was driving, and it builds your muscle when you make a decision, even though it's uncomfortable at first. And I think we've all had coaching clients where, we have to pull them into making that decision. But as they get used to doing that and cutting through all of the swirling, overwhelm in their brains,
emotion.
Yeah. It's like building that muscle.
Yeah.
And so it gets easier. It's not that the decision making necessarily gets easier, but doing that, cutting it off and saying, I'm making a decision now, gets easier as they build that muscle.
Yes. And I love to use that, that kind of metaphor or, about building it, because when you're building muscle, it hurts sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. And if you keep going, it gets easier. And I think on that coaching call, I talked about this quote that had popped up in my phone about it. Well, I just said it gets easier, but it doesn't get easier. You get stronger.
Right? Yes. And that was it. I couldn't think of that either.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, what if decision-making was always going to kind of feel hard in the moment? Let's just kind of, be okay with that. But let's, still build that muscle, right? Because even as we build muscle, I work out a lot with weights and stuff. I'm not looking for the pain to go away anytime soon, right? And that's because I want to keep building, but it's worth it, right? It's worth it. And we get stronger. And the more evidence we build about the power of this decision making, we can just keep going with it. But yeah, I mean, it's great to not expect it to not feel hard, at least some of the time.
Yeah.
But I tell y'all, I love when I work with my clients and we talk about kind of a decision, and then I'm like, okay, so let's do it. Like, what are we going to do? And they,
and their eyes get big.
Yeah. So I was going to say, I just love the faces I have seen on my clients, through the years. Right. But I think it's because, they've just not gotten to that place. Right. We just kind of hem and haw, and we think about it and we talk about it and we ask this person, but there just comes a time where we gotta take some action. And the first action is making the decision. And then we can get into action, implementing that decision. That was another thing that Brooke talked about in that podcast was, making decisions gets us into action sooner. Mm-hmm. And we know that action is what ultimately creates our results. So,
yeah, it clears the path. Decision making clears the path for momentum right there.
Yeah. So
and it's always running underneath when we haven't made it. It's just, burning that energy very slowly. It's like leaving an app on your phone that runs the battery down. Yes. It's out there.
It's just kind of this, it's this ball and chain, or it's this kind of thing that's weighing us down. So have y'all thought of any decisions if we've been talking? I'm going to get something out of you.
I had thought of one and now I've forgotten what it was. But I love the fact that it doesn't have to be a big decision. I think that is something that I'll tell you one. Okay, I'll tell you one. So one thing I had been thinking about is getting up earlier. And I'm always on that train that I need to get up earlier. But I have recently made the decision that, at this point in my life, that does not make good sense for my schedule. My schedule will change come May when I retire, and I may revisit it then. But I've been letting that, it's one of those shoulds. Well, I should be getting up earlier. I should be doing more in the morning than I do. But right now, while I have an 8-year-old I have to get ready for school, and I have a 2-hour drive to my own school, it just doesn't make sense for me. I need my rest more. So that's a decision that I have made very recently, and I've just decided to let myself have a break, not beat myself up about thinking I should get up earlier.
Yeah. And that's that it's so important, that language, right? That those words that you use, I need to, I should.
Yes.
And that's not a decision, right? Mm-hmm. That's not decision-making language.
No.
Examples of decision, I will, I am, this is what I'm doing, because, and adding that because with all of your whys, but it's that those words that should and need to and have to are not, decisive. It's not decisive kind of language.
Right.
So we got to watch for that. So yeah. And it just sounds to me like you love your reasons. Right. Yeah, but then I also love that you kind of have another thing I work with my clients on a lot is setting deadlines. So often when we make decisions, our brain is, a lot of times when we spin, our brain is thinking erroneously that it's set in stone for life. Right. And no, for you, it's a great example of this is what I'm choosing to do right now until this date. And then I will reassess. This is my reassessment time at this date. And so it kind of calms your brain down where it's oh, okay. Cause your brain's still gonna just offer up are you sure we don't want to, tweak this AM routine, before before we retire? And it's no, brain, we're going to reassess on, June 30th. So just, put that on your calendar, but again, brain's going to forget and probably remind you again, but it's nope, June 30th. Okay, moving on. So that just really gives your brain a hard and fast rule to, so it can kind of minimize some of that chatter.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Judith, it's all on you.
My here lately, it's just me and my husband, and more often than not, it's just me. So my big decisions are, am I cooking or where am I going to go out to eat? It sounds so silly, but we will spend just literally, it sounds like a relationship issue or whatever, but we cannot decide on what's for dinner. So for me right now in this moment, knowing that it's going to be my decision, what's for dinner. And I'm not sure, I honestly can't decide in this moment. There's so many places to go.
Make a decision right now, Judith. And here's actually another little hack that I read about in the New York Times, because I am fancy and read the New York Times. I actually just got like a free, 30-day trial. So
I love the New York Times.
I mean, I do love it though. But, and I just love just Googling, like decision making in the New York Times and seeing what articles came up. And that's what happened. And what they suggest is just, ask her, if I had to decide in 30 seconds, right? And someone was going to give me $10,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
To make a decision, what would I do? If you had to decide right now, Judith, what would y'all do for dinner?
It would be my default, right? It would be the Mexican restaurant, the place we always go on Sundays.
Okay.
Then my brain wants to entertain, the idea of like, oh, we should go somewhere different. There's only like 350 different restaurants here in Asheville. Like they're all amazing. And people will say, oh, you live in Asheville. We ate at this little restaurant or we ate here, and my husband and I both were like, we have never heard of these places because we go to the same places one after another. But I think I should be trying out different places, but
isn't that interesting, right? It's like, that's a should that comes up, but it's like,
oh yeah.
I mean, it sounds to me like y'all have your place that you go on Sundays. I don't think you hate it, or you
don't hate it.
Going. And it's just like, it's your place on Sunday, but it's just our brain kind of wanting to like, well, let's just kind of get creative today. Let's occupy all this brain space with, no, like Mexican. That's what we're doing, brain. Okay.
So I have a funny story about dinner and husbands, because I don't know. It sounds like this is a common problem. I know my husband and I, like, the daily question is what's for dinner, but we, for a while, it got to be a little contentious, and so we had an attorney that works with my husband. He would make the decision for us. Like if neither of us had a decision, would be like, okay. And my husband would ask him, what sounds good for dinner? And he would say it. And that's what we would do.
So isn't that
so we brought in a third party.
Yes. Like that but it's all comes back to this whole thing of like, we're not fully kind of trusting in ourselves, right? To just like, it's like, we would take a decision from from this third party kind of, person
who's not even eating with us.
Right. And that probably doesn't know, everything that you like or whatever, but that's a step, right? In terms of making progress in decision-making. It's just like, okay, ask somebody else and do what they say. Corinne taught me, they flip a coin. Like they flipped a coin on she and Chris on buying a house. Just flipped a coin. Like it can be that easy. You can consult a third party, another person or a coin if you want to.
Yeah. Right. Order the magic 8 ball. Yes. I need one of those. That's what it is.
Yeah,
okay.
There's nothing wrong with that at all, right? Because you're still making a decision.
Yes.
And that's progress beyond just, circling around with, circling the wagons.
You're going to blow my husband's mind when I tell him that I know where we're going for dinner. We're going to Mexican.
Well, and I think a lot of it goes back again to what we're making it mean, right? We are making it mean more than it actually is.
Well, yeah.
And when you talk about a house, making a decision about buying a house with the flip of a coin, to me, that really puts things in perspective. Like there are no wrong answers.
Right.
We think a decision like that is just life-changing. And it could go either. It will be fine either way. If you can have that kind of trust in yourself, then that's real peace of mind, right?
And that's exactly what I hear too, is like, that is not an emotional decision.
Right.
That is just a decision.
Yeah.
And so much of my decision-making process is emotional.
Yeah.
And so because I could not entertain that idea of buying a house on a quarter. No.
What if either way could be amazing, right?
No,
What
I
if either
don't
way
know.
could be amazing? And then, of course, our brain is going to go to the worst case scenario, right? Like we, in this whole wrong decision place. But then what is the best case scenario?
Yeah.
Right? We usually don't entertain that possibility. And then all of the other possibilities in between, worst case and best case. And so, yeah, like that's this whole abundant thinking. If either decision could be amazing, or even just like, what is something, again, best case that could happen. And that just opens up your brain to like, oh, maybe this whole decision making isn't as big of a deal as I make it out to be. But ultimately, it's about whatever happens, that, what we're really afraid of is that we're going to beat ourselves up. We're going to feel so much shame. We're going to, hate ourselves because we think we made the wrong decision. But if we remind ourselves that we never have to think that, right, that we can always have our own back, then that's when the whole world opens up to us.
That's so good, Betsy.
I love it.
I'm really appreciating this on a personal level, because it's like I'm listening to you on a coaching call, and I'm just like taking it all in. So thank you so much.
That is right. This isn't really much different than a coaching call. I was nervous this morning, and it's just like, we're just going to have a conversation. We're just going to talk about stuff. Yeah. I talk on coaching calls. I talk in one-on-one calls all the time. So it's fun.
It's really, I have to say, on a personal level, it is really nice to hear you speak, and not, I don't know, what do I want to say? Like, just hearing you in conversation has just been so nice. So again, just another level of where we're going on this journey.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We're on a rocket ship, and we're just holding on.
Right.
for dear life. That's what I like to say in No BS, is that we're along for the ride, and we are up for anything. So it's super exciting.
So when me and my husband have trouble with dinner decisions, I'm going to text either one of y'all, just so you know.
We're just going to tell you where to go.
Where do y'all want to eat Nashville? We'll go check it out, because y'all probably know more than we do.
All right. Anything else we want to bring up?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Betsy. This has just been, it's been really good.
Yeah. Well, I've just loved talking with y'all. And if anybody just takes one little thing, right, in terms of just, thinking about a decision that they need to make. Actually, another example is I'm packing for to go to my parents' house for a couple of days. Packing is another just series of decisions, right?
Yeah.
Judith,
I know. Yeah.
Almost choked on her water. But also home clutter and things like that, right? Clutter is just decisions that haven't been made, right? It's just like when you really open yourself up to just so much in your life is either a made decision or an unmade decision, then it just can lead you to really just make some decisions and just
simplifies the whole process.
I have to say, this is something that's going on currently in our life. My mother passed away this year, so there has been this process of watching her husband go through the process of the paperwork, and it has caused me to look at the process of the decisions that I can make ahead of time right now for my family, in considering, little odds and ends and junky things that we need to be getting right. Do I want my adult children dealing with this when I can deal with this right now?
Yes.
It's really, sorry, that was just crossed my mind. Maybe someone else will think about that, like the decisions to make now for the future.
Right. That can be another why, right? Is that when you make a decision, you're not leaving that decision to be made by someone else that you love, right? I mean, that's a pretty amazing why right there. I am always, speaking of my parents, we are probably going to empty another box in the attic while I'm there, because I want to make those decisions, now, as opposed to later when I'm, cleaning out, the house or whatever, who knows, on down the line. Right. I mean, it's just like, this whole decision making can, is just a pretty amazing gift, right, that we can give ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep. All right. Well, Betsy and Judith, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you if they want coaching?
Go, Judith.
Well, with the No BS weight loss program, Corinne Crabtree, I always just kind of stick it out there because I'm of the mindset that most of our listeners found us through that avenue. So I always include that. Betsy.
Yes. Well, same thing. No BS. That's where I coach, and also have an Instagram that I am deciding to post a little bit more regularly at Betsy Kimbrell Coaching.
Nice. Oh, can I get mine on there too?
Well, yes.
Just Judy on Instagram. I was thinking about that too. I was like, I should just Judy, JUSTJUDIE on Instagram.
Okay. And you can find me at SonyaGreenCoaching.com or Sonya_Green Coaching on Instagram.
Yay. Thank you for that, Betsy.
Yes. All right. This was so much fun, y'all. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, we'll see everybody back next week. Thanks, ladies.
Bye.